All right, Phil, thank you. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about seismic activity in the region is Dr. David Pearson. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Geosciences at Idaho State University. We appreciate you being here. We talked about, or Phil talked about the 1983 earthquake. We actually can dig through the archives. We've got some video of that earthquake and the damage that was done. So to those people in Challis, and then also to other people around here who maybe don't follow seismic activity like you do, what is it unusual what Challis is experiencing right now?
Not particularly. This region, so earthquakes occur along faults. When there's slip across a fault line, there's movement of one rock relative to the other. And Challis happens to have a lot of active faults as it's part of the Northern Basin and Range Province, which is basically in Nevada, Utah, and southern and eastern Idaho. So it's not too uncommon to expect earthquake activity in this particular region, but there just hasn't really been much seismic activity until since the mid-'80s when the Bora Peak earthquake event occurred.
And the people in Challis, as they talk about it, they wonder, is this a sign of something that happened in '83? Are these quakes that we've had recently, are they any kind of predictor to something like that?
Unfortunately, we're not able to predict earthquakes at this point in time. Typically, with magnitude 4 and 5 earthquake events, we think there's about a 5% chance that those earthquakes could be foreshocks to a larger event. So in other words, there's a 95% chance that there's not going to be a large event that occurs after these smaller events.
Now, we're in an area that has a lot of seismic activity. Yellowstone routinely has seismic activity. Even some spots down in Caribou County are even stretching over into the Wyoming border. What do we make out of that? When you see all of that happening, sometimes it makes people nervous. I don't know if you saw that YouTube video floating around a couple of weeks ago about the buffalo supposedly running from seismic activity. What do you make of all that?
I think people are just getting kind of worked up. They forget there hasn't been that much seismic activity recently, and so they kind of forget. And so people like to make a big deal about it, when I personally don't think it's a big deal. But like I said, there is a potential that there would be a larger event, but it's unlikely.
Well, and part of it might be that we just are aware of it more. You know, there's a lot of different places to get it. Quickly, any sort of advice you have for people who are worried about it or want to be prepared for it?
Obviously, try and secure heavy things in your house that might be able to fall during potential ground shaking. If there is an earthquake event, try and stand under a doorway or move underneath a table until the shaking is stopped.
All right. Well, we appreciate your expertise calming some fears out there, at least for me anyway. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dr. Pearson.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.